Record. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are back with another episode of The Journey Within. I am your host, Andrea Escobar Logreda, spiritual guide and mental health intuitive. Each week, we get to connect with different vision holders, visionaries, storytellers, and healers as they walk us through their journey within their dark night of the soul experience. Today, we have two best friends, Gina and Leslie. Wait, Dr. Leslie, I didn't even ask if I could call her Leslie.
But you absolutely can.
Who opened their Maryland-based dispensary, Greenhouse Wellness, in 2017. I am so excited to connect with these two ladies. Not only did they open a dispensary less than 3 years ago, they've also started their own cannabis line, Blissva, and we're going to talk all about that today. And I know, kind of being in the cannabis industry, it's not the most welcoming industry. There's a lot of obstacles that you're facing, and your background, I'm so impressed. On one end, one of you is like all in the medical, and on the other end, it's very like your finance, I got this. But that still doesn't create like the most, oh yeah, they make sense why you're going into a cannabis. We're going to open a dispensary. So I would love to hear a little bit about your upbringing, how you guys met, and what sparked this really radical new path for both of you. Because, I mean, Leslie, on one end, you're a doctor, and you had to face a lot from your colleagues. You're going into something that's not federally legal still. We're still there's a lot of gray areas with physicians recommending cannabis and all of that. So you had your own set of things you were dealing with. And then Gina, you had killed it already. So kind of going in this route, it was like, so I really want to invest. I mean, it's an average of like $1 million to just get into the industry. So you're literally going in blind without knowing if you're going to have any success. So I'm so excited to hear your story, ladies. Like, it's so incredible.
Well, thanks. I'm going to let Gina get started because she's got a pretty interesting background.
I'm a geek. I am a geek, and by nature and at heart, I'm an engineer. I have a professional engineer's license in all 5 disciplines. I like to solve problems. And I had retired when we started this. And I had sold my last company called TheraPro, which had started in my basement. It was an ice pack company. And prior to that, we had sold that one to BioFreeze. Prior to that, I ran a venture fund for 15 years. So I kind of just have enjoyed being an engineer in most of my career. And so when Leslie brought this opportunity to me, it was kind of unique.
So let me just back up and say I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. So I certainly had some cannabis experience and knowledge, being that it started out there. So I was definitely aware of that as an alternative healing opportunity. And I went to medical school at Penn State, stayed for residency. So I was very firmly established on the East Coast. When I was done and ready to actually open up private practice, I moved to Maryland and actually ended up moving right behind Gina. So we were
backdoor neighbors.
Backdoor neighbors. So we became fast friends because we have absolutely nothing in common. And we each look at the other like they're a little bit alien.
5'4", 6 foot.
Yeah,
Doctor engineer.
She thinks that medicine is a 1 or a 0.
It's an equation.
It's not. And so it's been really entertaining. So I was disillusioned with the practice of traditional medicine. It's I could give you a whole podcast on why that is, but in any case, suffice it to say that there needed to be a better way of healing. And I was pretty disillusioned with the way that medicine was going. And so when a patient brought this up as an opportunity for us to invest in, Gina and I kind of looked at each other. She had been approached by some people, and it wasn't really the right deal yet, but it was on her radar because, in this world, when you are in a disruption or a disrupting market, there's a ton of opportunity. Yep. And Gina has really taught me that. So my best friend called me up and said, "Hey, Les, I think we should do this. I think it'll only be about 20 hours of work. I think we should do it." And I was horrified, terrified, excited because I wanted to do it, but absolutely terrified because now my name, my MD, was going to be affiliated with a federally illegal enterprise, and I really didn't know how that was going to go. Yes, I definitely got berated by my coworkers, my colleagues, and today they are coming to me and sending their family and friends to me. So it's funny what a couple of years will do, and somebody's got to lead the charge. So why not us?
And I grew up totally differently. I grew up in West Virginia in a coal mining town. And so we are not the same in any way. And I think that's what makes our business work. We approach it in two totally different ways. There's a line of demarcation. I don't cross into the medical piece. I stay on the business finance end. Leslie kind of stays medical, and it works. And people have told us no, that we're doing it wrong every step of the way. And the one thing we have learned as women is we must stick to our convictions and where our heart is. And we wanted to do it differently. It is the hardest business I have ever run. They have invited me to leave the bank, invited me to leave my mortgage, my children's savings accounts. They've closed accounts, credit cards. It is hard. It is very hard.
And it's also hard to do this well, right? So one of the things that we're doing differently is we're calling out this medical market that's being, masquerading as a medical market when really it's run by recreational minded individuals. I mean, the whole entity from coast to coast is started out that way. And so what we've done is turn it on its head, and we've said, no, we're going to approach this truly medical. We're not just masquerading. We're really going to do a deep dive into the science. We're going to have the authenticity of having a doctor and nurses here. We're going to have training. We're really going to do this right. So that's part of the problem, that people say you guys are insane. That's not the way to do it. And then the other part that we see so much in this industry is, and there's no offense meant by this, I'm just sort of stating what we've seen, but a lot of businesses within this industry are not well run, and they're not mindfully engineered from the ground up as a business. People think, oh, it's pot, we're just going to make money, we're going to make money hand over fist, but they don't actually look at the bottom line, they don't look at margins, they don't understand a balance sheet, they don't understand all of the nitty gritty that Gina, that's her bailiwick. She loves that. She loves to sit and spin in that area, and spreadsheets give me hives. So it's great that I can give her that task, and she's so good in that element. And then I don't cross into that, and she lets me handle the medicine part. So it's really a very interesting situation that we find ourselves in. Not what we would have ever expected.
And we find ourselves in a position where there are 3 female-owned dispensaries out of 100. And so we play in the boys' club every day. And it's taken us a while, but now we feel like we're at least a force to be reckoned with. We find ourselves in the top third of the dispensaries in the state. We have a following in the doctors in the state, and most all the truly medical patients come to us. And so it is an honor and a privilege to serve those who have their time being short in this world. And with cancer, what we find is, in the end, it wins. You might fight the battle for a while, but in the end, it typically wins. And we laugh with our patients, and we cry when we lose them. So
it's the most powerful medicine I've ever practiced, for sure. What we've managed to do, getting patients off of their pain medicines, their opioids, we've had patients that should be dead given the amount of opioids they were taking daily, and they're off completely and they have their lives back. We've gotten people to not need a cane or a wheelchair for their MS, or to be able to drink a cup of coffee without shaking because the Parkinson's is so bad, and THC will make those tremors go away. I mean, that's not a small thing, to be able to drink your cup of coffee and read the newspaper. So the impact on people's daily lives is just astounding. And when we see our same patients back and we see them looking better and thriving and living with their cancer for years and years and years, that's not nothing. Like, the things I've seen in this dispensary, I have never seen in the practice of traditional medicine in all my years in the hospital setting, with dealing with really acutely ill people. I've never seen what I've seen here. So pretty astounding stuff. It's never a dull moment. We have a very lively crew who's working right now. We've had to completely pivot our business model with COVID, which happily was instituted very quickly. Gina would really have preferred that I had no idea what I was talking about, and that she really would have preferred that I was making too much of this whole pandemic thing.
Yes.
Oh, Leslie, it's never as bad as
Oh, it's
all that.
good. It'll work itself
Yeah,
out.
and I'm like, this one's not going to end well, Gina Marie. So happily, she trusts me, right? She listened to me, and she enacted all of these changes here in the dispensary to keep our patients safe. So now we have I would say better, I can't say better than Chick-fil-A, but equal to Chick-fil-A as far as patient satisfaction goes, as far as in and out service.
We actually process 4 times more patients in the same amount of time with the same people with a quicker response time now because we have optimized everything. You pull up, you are serviced in 45 seconds to 2 minutes in and out. And so our patients are delighted with that. What we miss is being able to give them a hug.
Yes.
But I think COVID has cost us all that
Yes.
somewhat.
Mm-hmm. And then honestly, the medical part of it, I was usually on site doing in-person consultations, and I had only 30 minutes per patient. But now I can do it via Skype or Zoom or whatever, and I can give them as much time as they want, which is lovely. Mm-hmm. So that it is a win-win-win. It's a win for everybody at this point.
That is so incredible. Well, first of all, I think it's like so interesting that you both recognize that you're totally different, but that you could come together. It's like you're completing each other. You're like the perfect partnership in all sense of the word. It's such a beautiful kind of coming together. And it's sad because you touched on, Leslie, so much. I'm not a doctor. I always say that, but I was diagnosed with a lot of different illnesses and things. And the traditional Western route for me was never what my doctors are saying. You're living and thriving. I'm like, no, I'm surviving, but I'm not functioning. So there's no way I'm thriving. And it wasn't until I went the alternative route, and then my doctor recommended CBD, and we went more into cannabis and different things. But it was hard because I remember at the time my psychiatrist couldn't legally say something. She was like, she would give me books, and I'm like, I'm very confused by this. Like, I have an addictive personality. Why are you giving me this book? And she's like, just read it. And I'm like, okay. But she couldn't legally say, hey, you know what? Based on everything I've been seeing you for such a long time, I think this would be a great idea for you. And it's not always easy to have these conversations with a doctor. So I can't imagine what you were going through. Yeah, it's exciting on one end because you want to be able to give back to your patients, but on another end, your security and am I going to be able to practice? Am I still going to be like all of this that kind of goes on? And again, there's nothing protecting us, sadly. When it's state to state and it's still not federally legal, you have no sense of protection. And what you were kind of going on with that is, you guys weren't just getting affected on that, but you're 2 moms. So on that, forget about the professional, just like you're 2 moms. You can lose your kids, your teachers can say, like, there's just so much stigma around all of this. How did you guys navigate that?
We took a big deep breath and we just jumped. And that's actually what we talk about in our book, because we have been asked this question by a number of people over the years, like, how in the world did the two of you know you guys? Like, how in the world did you two get into this business, and how are you so successful in all of this? So we wrote the story. It's called High Heels, and it's a nod to the high of cannabis and the healing effect, HEALS, that it has on all of us. And part of it has really been us as women and us as individuals. I think we've gotten to know ourselves a little bit more through this process and trust ourselves and almost step into our own strength and our own power. And that's what we are really encouraging those around us to do at all times, because truly we're aligned with our mission statement. We're aligned with what we want to be doing to the world at large, and we're being true to ourselves. And when you do that, life just tends to work out the right way. And I can't and I can't speak for Gina, but I think the two of us can't live from a place of fear. We're looking at where the hockey puck is going, not where it is at this moment. So it's really believing in your vision, believing in yourself, trusting yourself, and then at the end of the day, take a big, deep breath and just jump.
Because it is scary. I mean, the bank called me up and said, we'd like to invite you to leave the bank. We're going to cancel your mortgage, cancel all your children's savings accounts. And I've banked with this community bank for 35 years. I'm like, why? We saw that you wanted dispensary because my name was on the application. We did it so quickly. We bid as Gina Dubbe. We didn't bid as the company name. We just bid. And here we won. And so we really faced it head on. And the fact that you can't bank, that there's one bank in all of Maryland that we can bank with, and they charge a huge premium because they can get it. We can't have credit cards. We pay 280E taxation, which is effectively 70% tax on whatever you sell. So there's a lot of different things. And then when you jump into the field, you realize as a woman, this is a male-centric field. Like the strain names are AK-47 and all these horrific things.
Yeah, and it's the boys club too. I mean, it absolutely is like a fraternity where there are meetings that are had and there are special pricings to be had, and there's a culture of like your bro from down the way that gives you your weed. I mean, it's a very strange culture. Gina and I really did not understand the extent.
Took us a while.
Mm-hmm. And it's really about doing the right thing. Like Gina kills them with kindness all the time, and she always wants to be a good neighbor, and she really, I think both of us always try and strive for win-win situations.
Right.
But we, and especially Gina, have had to call some people out who are treating us differently than they're treating somebody else that doesn't have the same buying power that we do. So you wonder, why is that? Is it a gender thing? It certainly seems to have been.
I think that I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and say it was a hidden bias, and I tried to enlighten them. Yeah. And then when that didn't work, we cut them off.
Yeah. But with our feet.
And then eventually they came back and we got what we wanted. Sure. But it also allowed us to see the deficiency for females. And that's why we started Blisseva, which is a line of products for women. Men can use it too, but it's mainly for women. The name is a nod to bliss and sativa. So it's the meld of those. But the number one complaint for us is anxiety and stress.
And sleep.
And sleep. And sleep. And truthfully, women want something different. 9 times out of 10, they're with their children or working. They don't want to appear high. They don't want to smell like cannabis. They want a discreet, medicated effect.
And it needs to work pretty darn quickly, because when they're at their breaking point, they're at their breaking point. And I'm so cynical. I mean, I've been taking care of women for over 20 years, and I know that what's in their Starbucks cup on the sideline of the soccer game is not coffee. I mean, I know that they're medicating themselves with whatever the heck they choose to put in there. And cannabis is certainly a lot healthier as far as that. There's no calories in Blisseva. And so we knew what we wanted. We knew what our patients would want. And we have had this conversation for probably like the last 5 or 8 years, that if we are attracted to something, whatever it happens to be in the world, that we should really believe in that, because chances are our cohorts also want that. And that's given us power and confidence to move forward with Blisseva, because I can't tell you how many times we were told that's wrong, that's stupid. And yet when it comes on the market and it's sexy, it feels good, it lights up with a pretty crystal, it tells you what it does right on the unit, and it's soft. And it's not overwhelmingly all about THC. So when you actually approach something medically from the actual science, instead of just putting a bunch of weed in a pen and giving it to your patients, you actually can have a more refined effect. So we were told by the manufacturers, that's stupid, you need to have it more potent. I'm like, we don't need to have it more potent.
What we as women want is a deep breath, or a glass of wine, or just a moment's respite.
So that you don't kill your husband
or your children.
Or whatever. I mean, yeah, we've all been at that breaking point, especially with this pandemic. So The balance pen, which is equal parts CBD and THC, was developed first. And that was definitely, as Gina said, a response to all of our patients who had anxiety and had difficulty sleeping. It's to be used anytime during the day. It is truly like a deep exhale. You won't feel impaired from that. And it's just enough to take the edge off, right? In a safe way. Men can use it too. I explain it's really pretty and pink, so they don't have a problem with that. But it works just as well on their anxiety and sleep.
And it smells like vanilla, or we have a flavor that smells like cucumber mojito, because you want that discreet experience to tuck in your cosmetic bag,
Yep.
to use wherever you want to use.
Yeah. So we're getting people to sleep. We're getting people's anxiety handled. And then we wanted to tackle pain, because so many of our patients are in debilitating pain, as we talked about before. And so we wanted to have a little bit of a more robust punch. So a little bit more THC, a little bit more potent, but still not something that's going to knock you on your keister, because we need people to be productive. They have small kids, or they have jobs, or whatever. They need to be on top of their game. And so we added specific terpenes to it to make you alert instead of make you sleepy. Because sometimes when people are medicating with cannabis for pain, it just makes them go to the couch and they can't really be functional. So this is specifically targeting our people that are just like us, that are trying to get through this grind in the middle of a pandemic. And it was, funny enough, met with really great success. And we had patients who were stuffing like 10 or 12 in a bag, purchasing them
because they're afraid they can't get them.
Yeah, because we've had a problem with distribution, that we have had a hard time keeping up with demand, and it's patients really freak out when they think that their placebos aren't going to be available.
So then we morphed and did a soothe line, mainly for endometriosis, pelvic pain, menstrual cramps, any kind of pain. It's a little stronger formulation, smells like clean lemons, but it's meant to take the edge off that pain immediately. So think menstrual cramps without an relief, just immediate relief.
Right.
Then we have a couple more lines coming.
Well, we have smolder, which is what everybody wants to talk about. And obviously that's from a gynecologist. So I certainly know what patients are complaining of in the bedroom and what they would want more of. I've had husbands asking their wives that, hey, ask Dr. Apgar for a pill so you want to have sex with me. So that's a whole nother situation. But what's hilarious is that part of smolder is a vape pen that will certainly put people in the mood. So guys, you're finally getting your pill for your wives or yourselves, that it will put you in the mood. And then we have a vaginal insert that is going to intensify it. The vagina is a wonderful route of administration for medications. It bypasses.
Not something you hear often.
Well, when you hang out with a gynecologist, my friend, you hear this
As
stuff
an
at dinner.
engineer, I'm like, don't say that, don't say that.
For a while, I couldn't even say vagina around my husband. Vagina. But yes, it's a wonderful route of administration for medication. As all gynecologists know, it bypasses the first effect of the liver, so that you're getting really a good amount of efficacy right out of the gate. And we do like that as gynecologists. And women like it. Women are used to that as a way of medicating. So yeah, we're kind of doing the 1-2 punch with smolder, and that one is a fiery red, and it's going to be cherry and cinnamon flavored, 2 different options. And it is, everybody's banging down our doors. When can I have that? When can I have that? When can I have that? So that's been fun. And then the last line is heal. And cannabis has a lot of healing properties. It can even help with obesity, and can actually cause the opposite of what THC does, which is to stimulate the appetite in small doses. THCV can actually suppress the appetite. It can be used as a treatment for diabetes and for obesity and for eating disorders and things. So it's kind of cool that we have that. We also really just want to work on the chronic inflammation, which is what disease comes from. And so that cannabis, along with a healthy lifestyle, along with plant-based and meditation and nature and, all of that. Cannabis is not a panacea. It's not just all about one thing, but it is really useful in the toolbox to create wellness and health. And that's what Heal is going to be designed to do. We have a few different formulations of how that's going to be given.
So we keep busy.
Yeah, just a little, just a little. I mean, 3 years ago, you just opened a dispensary, and now you're just coming out with 2 more, just wow. Okay, I was actually going to selfishly go into that because there's a lot of lines out there and there's a lot of products out there, but I love what you mentioned at the beginning. Everyone, even if it's being sold in the med side, I have my med card, so I can talk on that, about that. It's still recreational. It's not hitting the,
Right.
like now in the last year, we started to talk about terpenes, and it's like, why haven't we been talking about that since the beginning? Why is it that now it's being talked about?
Well, how about
And
in California, they just started putting testing on in 2018.
oh
I mean,
God,
how many years are they selling things without testing data? I mean, it's astonishing, right?
well, I laugh at the fact that they don't care about the testing, about the products that we're consuming, but please take our really hard-earned tax dollars and take and raid California farms, because that's really what you should be doing with your time. But that's me just mad that we're still in this with all the money that they're getting from the industry. I love that you guys talk about it's a boys club. It is a fraternity. And I remember when I first got in the industry, the way that I was initiated was, yeah, definitely, we'd love to tell you about what we're doing and work with you. I was invited after they had closed. I'm not going to name the brand to not, do that, but it turned into can you dab as much as the boys can? And I'm like, first of all, I don't want to. Second of all, I'm not in college again trying to prove to you that I can outdrink you so that you take me seriously. And I've read a lot of interviews about you guys because I was just so intrigued with everything that you're doing. And you did face a lot of that. They didn't want to let you into certain some production people didn't want to give you guys products, or they were charging you way more than everyone else. It's a very male driven industry. And I feel like as women, when you're even going into a dispensary, they have to mansplain what you're doing. God forbid I did my research and I know what I want to buy. You tell me what I need. Okay. Now on your end, you're trying to be on the other side. You're not trying to go about it with a recreational viewpoint. You're really trying to take your own kind of background and instill in it. How did you stay true to yourself and not turn into this masculine energy when it's being shoved down your throat everywhere? I love Leslie's face right now is just giving me life.
Well, I'm grateful. We had each other. And that is something a lot of women don't have. Because on the days when I was having the meltdown, I could look at Leslie and go,
we're like each other's touchstone. But I will tell you, there was a period of time when I was all gung-ho, females are taking over the world. And Gina says, but Leslie, we're leaving out half of the market if we appeal only to women. And I say, I don't give a crap, because the whole market is geared toward men, Gina. So sometimes it's about doing the right thing and screw the money part of it. So thank God my bestie agreed with me on that one. But yeah, there have been moments where it's really tempting, because it would have been so much easier just to roll over. But honestly, there's this thing called integrity, and we have that, and we really feel strongly about living our words, that we really walk the walk that we talk. And I couldn't sleep at night if I wasn't authentic and sincere, and if I wasn't doing the best for the patients. Because at the end of the day, the reason we're doing this is because we're trying to help people, right? And nobody else is doing it, right, Andrea? So why not us? Why not us?
And we're so grateful. We have such a good team of people. We are surrounded by bright, shining faces. The people that work for us, I learn every day from them. And we try to give back. We try to bring in accounting professionals to help them start their business, or give them marketing help, whatever they need, because we feel like the more that they achieve, the more that we achieve. Right. So Greenhouse is different by all regards. During COVID, we locked down here. We went to a curbside model. We went to A shift, B shift, so that we always had a team that didn't touch the other team. We bought luncheon every day for everybody so we could support all the local businesses and our people, because while we were able to pay our people, you know, they were in homes that their parents weren't working and there was some economic hardship. And so we felt like that was our way to give back and to help. And I don't regret that, not at all.
No, so we don't, you know, at this point, honestly, after the week I've had already, I'm just going to tell it to you. We're not asking permission anymore from anybody. And I don't really care about the boys club anymore. I'm just going to not even play in the boys club anymore. You know what? We're going to just surround ourselves with the most amazing humans that are creative and inventive and problem solvers and come from life as creating win-win solutions and really trying to create a better life for everybody. And like, get out of our way, I think, is really where I'm coming at you today.
Well, then it's only what, Thursday?
Oh, honey, I have lived a week in the last 24 hours.
What did they say? Happy New Year.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
January's over.
Exactly.
I selfishly want you guys to open a dispensary in every med state right now, because as you're talking, I'm like, this is why we need more women in the industry. Men don't give a shit about anything, but women do.
Right.
We're going to change the
nurturers.
world. Exactly.
We are nurturers
Right.
by our very soul.
Yeah.
And we see somebody in pain, be it our employees, and we try to make it better. And we have been fortunate. I have to say, I'm so grateful. We're grateful for the space that we've been given.
Oh, yeah.
People have, in our weird energy kind of way, shown up at the right time. Like finding real estate in cannabis is difficult because none of the big REITs or the big companies will lease to you, because being federally illegal, they're afraid the government will come in and take their whole building if you're a customer.
Search and seizure.
So we're fortunate we have our space. We're fortunate the people who take care of our space, and we try to give what we get back. And I'm grateful for that.
I mean, truly, I mean, this, yes, was a lot of hard work, obviously, but it was a lot of synchronicity and really nice luck.
Yeah.
You know,
And we
coming our way.
chose to do it different. When you come in here, you're going to see crystal chandeliers and white leather furniture, and
It's pretty.
it's pretty.
It's welcoming.
It's a med
welcoming. It's
spa.
not a seedy place to go get your weed. It's a legitimate, open and friendly place that you can come in and have a discussion, and we can figure out what's going to meet your needs the best. So yes, we are going to continue to turn this industry on its head. We are going to continue to push the boundaries. We're going to not ask permission, and we're just going to do what the right thing is.
I love that. I saw the pictures, and my mom is pro cannabis. She doesn't consume it, but my brother and I are both med patients, so she's very pro it. But I laugh anytime she'll go in a dispensary with me before COVID. It was always, this doesn't seem as inviting as I thought it would be. And as I was showing her pictures of your space, she's like, I would go there. And I'm like, maybe you need to move to Maryland. Maybe that's going to make you be more.
And that was our criteria. We wanted our mothers to come in here and be comfortable.
Yeah, tell her how old our patients are.
Our average age is 62.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
That's amazing though, because oh my God, yes.
You know how funny it is, me teaching 86-year-olds how to vape?
I literally wish you would like just send me a video of that, because it has to be like the most.
It's amazing. But it's not just me at this point. I mean, like, I'm not going to say irrelevant, but I'm mostly irrelevant here because
We both are.
I mean, as it turns out, it's a beautiful thing. Like, the staff's doing such a fantastic
They don't need us.
We just oversee, but yeah, my staff is smarter than me at this point. I have a whole bunch of chief residents out there who are super, super smart about all things cannabis. But yes, we had to start from the very beginning, but all of them are having the same conversations with the 85-year-olds on how to vape or whatever. It's hilarious. If you could follow us around with a camera, you would have a hit show on your hands because it is hilarious.
Oh man, my grandpa has dementia, and
That's so hard. I'm sorry.
Thank you. It is. I think last year made it more difficult.
Of course.
He's isolated. now, just because obviously being in a home and all that was going to be worse. And he started just going really downhill with isolation. Now he's back to living with, which was a godsend thing. His caretaker offered to take him into her house so that he could see her family and his kids and her kids and all of that. And he's kind of more awake now, which is great. But I've been very much, hey mom, look, there's a lot of really great research on how cannabis can help with dementia. And I was talking to him and I'm like, telling my very old school 84-year-old grandpa who's Colombian and ultra just like, weed, no, that's bad. And I'm like, yeah, I know there's some research. And I didn't want to use the word marijuana because I was like trying to be very mindful of how I'm presenting this to him. I'm like, there's this herb, like there's this plant that grows on the ground. And he's just like, marijuana. And I'm like, yeah. And it's really good for people your age that have memory like issues. I never smoked in my life. You think I'm going to do it now? And I was just like, yes, there's other ways. You can eat it. You can tincture it. I was like going off on all these things. And he's just like, but he's in Colombia. And I really want to bring him to the States this year when things calm down a little bit so that he can, it's not the same. Colombia doesn't have anything. So I'm like, it would be a different experience for him. But I like what you guys have because you have a bud tender is not going to be able to talk to my 86-year-old grandpa. No. Your chief residents will.
Yeah, and they do it every day, which is so cool. So the other thing that has made us so successful is a reflection of what Gina did, which was to design this so incredibly business-minded with margins and all of that. So when I referred to buying power before, we have one of the largest, if not the largest menu in the state. So we are able to buy in bulk. We're able to get great deals so that we can pass those on to our patients. But more importantly, we have things that nobody else has. And so especially for our medical.
Nobody else wants
because they don't actually understand it. So we have it. And I've had to put my foot down for a couple of things that the staff doesn't quite understand. Why is this crazy Dr. Apgar insisting on this? But they get it now.
They only say it sometimes.
Yeah, only sometimes. I don't know, Leslie, what does she want this time? But yes, there are certain things where I've said, no, I really 100% need you to always have this on stock because this is absolutely a game changer for so many patients. And it's just really nice because it might not have gone that way. Like the angst that I would have been having inside me to not have the right things, like if we weren't as medical, I think would be pretty sad.
But you know, the Parkinson's patients that come in, they don't want high dose. They just need tiny little bits. Yeah. Tiny
CBD,
little bits.
There's this funny thing called CBD. Ever heard of it?
And you know, when they come in and they're sobbing, my mother can now have a cup of coffee with breakfast. It matters. Or the balm to put on their hands for arthritis. $28 gives them 2 or 3 months. It's a low cost healing item that's accessible for everybody. We are optimistic that Maryland is going to increase and maybe go recreational this year, but we think that the bulk of the patients that really truly need it are getting it right now.
And funny enough, as we also said in the book, that recreational patients are often
they're different
medical and they don't know what they're treating. They just know that cannabis makes them feel better. And yes, there is a subset of the recreational patient that has really nothing to do with what it is that Greenhouse is all about. But yet, you know, we certainly have items that they're going to enjoy as well. So we're a little nervous about going recreational because the quality tends to go down once you are recreational. I want to have still access to the terpenes and all the minor cannabinoids, CBD. And in the states that I visited that have gone from medical to recreational, it's really difficult to find the same quality products. So I'm concerned about that because really in the history of cannabis in the United States, people get medical licenses just to wait until they go recreational because they think it's just this cash cow, and it's really not. That's not what it's about for us. And I'm especially concerned about what that's going to do for quality. So we're going to try and push the needle as hard and as fast as we can toward the legitimization of cannabis as medicine and all the good that it does. And then we are going to be very hopeful that we can continue on once it is recreational.
I really like that you touched on that. It's true. I don't think we bring it up enough. Once it's like everyone is trying to get in it just to make a quick buck. And I kind of want to laugh because I want to say something that's a really mean joke, but if you really want to make a quick cash with cannabis, go the black market route, because you're not going to do it. Like, you're making it more difficult for us as a whole if you're just trying to make money. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, and it kind of leads me into my next question. What are your thoughts on it's we're already there, but kind of cannabis, the industry going the route of big pharma? And the one thing we don't want to happen, but it's when money starts to be more important than the advocacy and the integrity of the patients. Because I feel like I'm not gonna go too in depth on my thoughts on the healthcare system, but to me that's where the disconnect and disruptancy exists. It's money's more important, and you forget why you got into it in the first place. Because when people started, there is a thing where like there's prestige with being a doctor, but the reality is it's that connection you have with your patients and that help and support you're able to offer them. And when you start thinking more of just how much money can I make, how can I make more, how can I make more, you're no longer doing it for the same reason. And I love that is such a, it's not even the foundation, it's intertwined into your entire business model, and it goes back to who you are, both of you. So it's beautiful. And I feel like it's not just Gina or just Leslie. It's like both of you are like, this is where we're at. We can't change this. But the more money gets poured into the industry to get more results, we do start, we're getting into that kind of gray area of, are we heading into the same route as big pharma, where we're going to be controlled now, and it's how to make more money and forget about the quality and forget about, I don't like that you go the med route and you can get an edible for 500 milligrams for $20. And then you go to the rec route and that same edible is $40, not 500, for 100, because that's the cap, at least in Colorado. And to me, I'm just like, there are patients that might need that high dosage, but not everyone does. And when you're not explaining that to people, a lot of people think it's just high THC. That's the only way to heal. That's the only way to get relief. And I'm sorry to the CBD companies that have come out, but there's a lot of snake oil being marketed, and you're targeting, sadly, people that would never go into a dispensary, and you're charging them $40 for CBD when the dispensary is selling it for $60. And it's just like, what's going on there? And yeah, like what are your thoughts on the industry going the big pharma route? And then what are your thoughts with how the industry is viewing this? Because even if it's recreational, you're still healing from something. Maybe they're not going to be your targeted audience, because they're not going to want to spend money on a pretty pink pen. They're going to just want to get the $10 one and not care. But the reality is, if you're consuming cannabis, just like, hate to say it, but if you're drinking alcohol, you're trying to get relief or alleviate something. So you're not going in it to have fun, because it's not like you're smoking weed and tripping out and seeing colors and all of this, like if you're going the psychedelic route. So you are looking for relief and some sort of alleviation for something. What What are your thoughts on all of this? I want to know Gina's, but I'm also really intrigued with Leslie's because it's just.
I will preamble a moment. What we are seeing more and more of on the states that are bidding for licenses is the large white male-owned service organizations are winning everything, because we just bid West Virginia and lost. We lost by a couple of points for the grow, 1 point for the processor, and we lost to all white male companies. There was no set aside for women. There was no set aside for diversity. There was no set aside. And, you know, we had to pony up $2 million to bid in West Virginia. We're not talking a small or inconsequential amount of money. And one MSO won a grower processor and 10 dispensaries. So tell me how that isn't going to cause a monopoly in that state. It is absolutely going to, from a business fundamental perspective. And I will defer on the medical perspective.
So obviously we're going toward federal legalization. I mean, the horses have been out of the barn for so many years now, and it's just absurd that the feds can't get out of their own way. And I know that it's a difficult ball of yarn to unwind. I get it, but it has, the snowball's getting bigger and bigger. It's on its way to happening. The problem is that because of its Schedule I status, you can't do a federal funded study that proves that it has medical value. Okay, but it does have medical value, and we have like proof of that. So it's definitely coming, and unfortunately, it's already here. I mean, Epidiolex, TW Pharma,
Just about today.
Yeah, today really.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's here. The good news, though, for anybody that knows cannabis medicine, is that we really need to learn how to be naturopaths, because the plant in whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and the synchronicity and the interplay between all of these different terpenoids and flavonoids and cannabinoids is what makes the magic happen. And traditional science and traditional pharma has a very, very difficult time combining elements into a disease modification unit of some sort of tablet or something. They really have a very hard time doing that. So I don't think that big pharma is going to necessarily decimate the market. I think they're going to try. I think that it's going to cause an enormous disruption, and not in a good way. And I think that the response to that has to be, from those of us who are still in the trenches, is to continue to focus on what's best for the patient, not best for their bottom line, meaning big pharma's bottom line. So yeah, it's bigger than we are. We ultimately think that somebody in that industry will most likely purchase all of the dispensaries at the end of the day.
The MSOs are going to be the equivalent of big pharma.
Yeah, exactly. But the very interesting thing, though, is that cannabis, for better or for worse, has opened up a ton of research into different therapies. So say cancer, for instance. So we know that big pharma is looking and is developing cannabinoid, either antagonists or agonists, that will act on certain receptors that we have in our body. So we know that big pharma is going to be involved in some way, shape, or form. Whether they will be the ones that take over the cannabis industry, I think Gina has a really valid point. I mean, we said Philip Morris at some point was going to be buying us, so who knows? But yeah, it's important for us to keep our eye on the prize and continue to do the right thing for the patient, because then we'll never get off key if we focus on that.
That allows us a course, right? That's first. Everything else falls out second.
Right.
9 times out of 10, we can put it in its appropriate box. But we've been fortunate in that truly we have never approached a problem the same way, ever. But we come to the same conclusion.
Yeah, there's so much that's insane about this industry. Like CBD is not going to intoxicate you. It's definitely psychoactive. It definitely has an effect in your brain, but it doesn't intoxicate you like THC. Yet the state of Maryland, in its wisdom, did not allow us to sell CBD that was not grown, processed, tested in the state of Maryland. So they did the patients a huge disservice, because CBD is the most important cannabinoid, and then you add a little bit of THC and a little bit of the other things to get the desired effect. So we couldn't protect our patients We had to circumvent it and do all these things to try and get patients safe CBD. While I understand that the state of Maryland wanted to have a supply of safe and tested CBD for their patients, most states have an agency that can evaluate somebody else's brand and look at the COA on it and say, yes, this meets Maryland standards, we'll go ahead and let that happen. But for whatever reason, Maryland could not get out of its own way. And that was a real problem for us early on about not having that available. So even outside of big pharma, it's still hard to get the grows to grow CBD containing varieties. Now, as it turns out, they have finally allowed for CBD to come in.
Hemp-based CBD.
Hemp-based. Of course, we're just mincing words here. Yes.
I recently, well, not recently, I went down a rabbit hole of just like doing kind of the history way before. And I thought it was kind of interesting that the smear campaign that started against cannabis way, way long ago was more out of, oh man, you're affecting my pocket by promoting this, and that can't happen. So I think it's interesting how at the end of the day, all these rules and regulations that are in place, we the public, I'm saying we the public, because when you're going in the route, you do a lot of research and you're like, oh wow, this is actually not what's happening. But if you're not informed, you start thinking that there is something wrong, something bad about cannabis, and we're not realizing that actually, mixing words, hemp has been used for literally hundreds of years. And it was used instead of cotton right after World War II because we didn't have enough. So it is interesting how the history of it is kind of distorted throughout time, and there's this kind of negative connotation around it. What advice do you have for other women who are looking to advance their careers in the cannabis industry? Because as you said,
yeah, just do it. Find somebody who supports you. Surround yourself with people that know what the heck they're doing, even if you don't. Trust yourself and just do it. Be like Nike.
And also, integrity is non-negotiable, right? You have to be able to look in the mirror every day. And some people associate hard work with something negative. That's not true. I mean, there is no substitute or replacement for hard work. And finally, I think you have to be true to yourself. I mean, we set our goals and we stayed true to them, and we recognized we might not make the most money. It was a matter of, this is our goal and this is where we're going to stay. And as women, we find that we second guess ourselves. So if I have one piece of advice, it's reach out to another woman and say, you're fine. You're doing great.
Yeah, we just need to step into our own power. Yeah. I mean, my advice to all the women that I am in contact with is to just do it. I mean, why not? What's the worst thing that can happen? I mean,
that's what we always do. We look at the worst case scenario.
Yeah, what's the worst that can happen?
And then we work backwards.
Yeah. I mean, what's the best thing that can happen? You know, and
it's probably not going to be either one.
Yeah, chances are it's going to be somewhere in the middle. I mean, for me, failure is just not an option. Like, you work as hard as you need to make it work. But again, when you're true to yourself and you become and you manifest all that you actually are, failure is not an option. I mean, things just actually work out really well when you are authentically yourself. Like, yes, I've made choices that were a deviation from that which I was brought up in, and that which I was supposed to become and do, and what I trained for most of my life to be. Yes, I have deviated from that, but it was the right choice for me. And so I don't have to listen to anybody else. I have to learn how to listen to me. And that's something that I think, especially as women, we don't do. We don't honor that inner wisdom and that inner knowing and knowledge that is so inherently beautifully female. We just need to believe in ourselves.
I was supposed to be a coal miner's wife. Who knew? Wasn't right for me. Not that it was a bad dream, it just wasn't mine. And so I failed at that dream. I succeeded at a different
one. That was somebody else's dream. That wasn't your dream. That was the expectations that you were born into.
It was. But I think we're all born into those
Right.
expectations.
Right.
We all have this little box. And
But we're no different. We are no different than anybody. Like,
No.
truly, we are no different. Yes, we can have a Cosmo together and get liquid courage and say, let's lock arms and do this. But we're no different than anybody else. I mean, truly.
we
anybody
often
can do
say
this.
we run with scissors.
Yes, we love to. We color outside of the lines.
Man, I love your both of your energies. It's just so great. So we have a little tradition here on the Journey Within. I love to astrologically profile everyone.
Oh,
You guys
I
know
love it.
your sun sign, moon sign, and rising. That would be awesome. Leslie's like, oh, I don't know any of that. Do you guys know your birth?
Over here, she would do it. I know that I'm a cusp, married to a cusp, with a cusp daughter and a cusp ex-husband, which is so freaking cool. My daughter and my husband have the same birthday, and your son have the same
Oh my
birthday.
God! Wait. I'm curious now. What are their birthdays?
March
3/22.
22nd.
March 22nd. So March. Aries, Taurus.
No.
Pisces.
Pisces.
Pisces and
I'm blanking
what's
right
the
now.
one
March
before
22nd.
Pisces?
Aquarius.
Aquarius and Pisces, I think.
March 22nd.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a Gemini.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I'm picking up, I'm a Gemini. So anytime like that I'm around a Gemini, I'm like, my mind starts to get like super chatty and I'm like, there's someone in here has to, but I kept thinking it was Gina just because she kept laughing all the time. I'm like, she kind of reminds me of me. Maybe it's her. And I kept thinking with you, Leslie, I'm like, I don't know why I'm getting like Pisces and Capricorn.
So I was married to one of those once.
So it might be that.
Yeah, so I am actually on the cusp of Scorpio Sagittarius, but if you really do a deep dive into me, I'm actually a Sagittarius. So growing up, I would read the horoscope of both and just take the best out of both of them, because why not? There's no rules.
I did that too.
Yeah. So
Taurus, Gemini.
depending on which newspaper you read, it was either cut off on the 21st or the 22nd, so whatever. I just read them both. But yes, apparently I'm a Sagittarius.
I'm like the 22nd, so Taurus, Gemini, right there.
Yeah.
See, but you guys are literally the perfect combination. Gemini
Yes,
and
we are.
Sagittarius. It's like
You know.
you're a manifesting force, literally. Sagittarius
Love
brings
that.
in a lot of like luck because of Jupiter. And then Gemini, as long as you're aligned, which kind of makes sense why you've been able to do good with like finances. As long as you're aligned with your design, everything just falls into place as you want it to. I'm not saying it's not going to be hard. It's just like you literally bring things into your like environment as you want them.
From your lips to God's ears.
I'm like right now just like throwing it out there. I'm like, universe, make
Love
us
it.
that they get whatever
Come on now.
whatever bids they're on.
Thanks.
Oh man. Well, ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and
Thank you.
the audience and sharing your story. God, you're two incredible women. And I just need to say something selfishly. Do you ever think, Leslie, that you might want to make like a course with what you're doing for your staff and open it up for everyone? Wink, wink. Wink, wink.
Some things to do, but yes, it's definitely on
The radar.
It's on the radar. Yeah, that's very sweet of you. And we've really enjoyed speaking with you, Andrea. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Keep doing what you're doing.
I was about to say, I'm going to end up going to Maryland and then I'm going to say, well, I don't have my Medicard here, but I have my Medicard from Colorado. That's a thing. I really hope that once we go the federal route, that is something that we can do where it's like, if you have or pay more so that all the states get the tax that they want, but it's just like, how is it? And that's something that I've always said. I call myself an ex-psych patient because no psychiatrist now will touch me. But I could go and get my prescription filled anywhere. I can't do that now. And man, insomnia is a thing. You need it. So yeah, I hope we're on that route. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. You ladies are literally paving like the road right now, not just for women, but just for a completely new way of how the industry is viewed and worked in. So
And so are you.
Yeah.
You're doing good things for all the ladies your age and social media. Keep up.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll stay in touch and hopefully we'll be able to meet soon in real life.
I love
Sounds
it.
good.
Yeah, stay healthy.
Thank you. You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.